Welcome back to another episode of Tactics Marketing, where we break down your questions about how to be better at marketing. And I think this is a really great one. So the question today is, how do I make the most out of the characters that are in the bio that I have? Okay, well, great. So let's first talk about that. First off, making a first impression is incredibly important. And I think this is something that a lot of businesses actually get wrong. And it's not by design. You're not trying to screw it up. It's just you're too close to what you do to remember back to the first time that you dreamed up your business or the first customer that you had. And I think you've got to get into their shoes as someone who is looking at your business for the first time. And we'll kind of break that down. But the bottom line is 5 minutes after I go through this, you're going to spend on fixing all of this. And it is so quick. And it's a simple little formula in terms of how to write it out. You can write it out as you're kind of taking this all in, but it's designed for being short and sweet and to the point for your Instagram bio, for your LinkedIn bio, for your LinkedIn company page, for the start of your Facebook account, any place that you've got a short description that is there. The long description, I'll kind of give you a framework for that as well that's really good for your website, or for you can have a long description like you can within your About section on LinkedIn or within your Facebook page. But this is basically the framework that you need to have. So I'm going to take you back to a second to one moment that has really resonated well with me for why this is important, and something that I think about when sometimes I wonder if I'm getting the point across about what we do. And so there was an interview, it was actually B-roll that they were showing before an interview of Tiger Woods after he'd won one of the Masters championships. And this is back in the early 2000s. And he was shaking someone's hand and he said, "I'm Tiger Woods." And he shook another hand, "I'm Tiger Woods." And it was completely genuine. And the announcer picked up on it and was interviewing him after and said, "You know, everyone knows who you are, right? You don't have to introduce yourself." And he was very, very straight. He said, "My dad always taught me to properly give someone a handshake and introduce myself with my first and last name. Period. Done." Has nothing to do with his star power, had nothing to do with how much everyone should recognize who he is or how great he was. No, had nothing to do with that. It was just proper etiquette and a formal introduction and being very personable to everyone who came and treating everyone the same way. You're meeting someone for the first time, shake their hand. It's a good handshake. Introduce yourself with your first and last name. And that really stuck with me, that it was very simple. I think a lot of the answers that you hear in sports from people or celebrities or people who are famous, they naturally tend to maybe get in their head a little bit, where people assume who they are and think that they are in a spotlight that might be a little bit bigger than what is actually shining on them. And I feel like that is the most relatable part to small businesses. And no matter how big you are within your space, that space is probably a lot smaller than you think. And I like thinking about some of the people that I've met who are running businesses that are the opposite, where they have built a very big business in the 8 or 9 figures, and they've done it so quietly because they're from a small area that is, they're the number one show in town, but the area is quite small. And so outside of their region, not very many people know who they are. And there's lots of cases like this all around the world, where you could walk down the street and feel like you're anonymous because you're outside of your area, right? And this is something that I think we need to do a better idea of remembering as small business owners, that we don't necessarily want people to come to us and know who we are already, because that can often lead to misconceptions as well of what we do and how we do it. So let's break this down. So it's really simple within the conversation that you can have with someone in the first impression, is to properly define 3 things. And those 3 things are, the first one, who you are. Who you are matters because it's how that they're going to find you, especially if it's branded search traffic. You want to remind them of what your name is because it might not say it specifically everywhere. It might be something where it needs to be shortened, or there might be a nickname or a past company name because of an acquisition or something that's changed. So the first thing you want to do is actually state your name. The second is what you do. And the third is who you do it for and where. And the reason those things are combined is because sometimes it may not be a specific person, sometimes it may not be a specific place, or vice versa. But those two are the qualifier of your target market. And so think about this in the sense of you're going a little bit beyond that "Hi, I'm Tiger Woods" in the introduction that's formal, but you're also framing the situation of what you do so that someone can see if that's a need that they have or a desire that they have. And the second part of it is, are they actually in your target market to receive those services? So for example, myself, I'm in Vancouver. That often can get confused with Vancouver, Washington, right? If we were just to be serving and saying that we service Vancouver without saying that it's Vancouver, BC, we could get inquiries with people assuming that we're from Vancouver, Washington, which is a very different place, right? It's 4 or 5 hours away by driving, and that's not something where we would be servicing if we were a local business that had a geographic region. So being able to put that context in place also matters for businesses that have a licensed area. They're only allowed to be servicing people in specific areas. This is particularly true with, lawyers having their bar in a certain place, doctors, dentists that have their license in a certain place. And I think this is something that business owners who don't have to do that may not be the best at actually defining. And this can also be a way that you can win with defining where you service so that it's a profitable area. I mentioned this with our team a fair bit about could and should. And when people come to us and ask us, can we do something for them? Can we help them with their marketing that's within a specific area? The difference between should we help them with that versus could we help them with that is a very different answer. We have a very talented team. I love their skill set. I think they're incredible. But the reason that they can do that is not necessarily the same as it being a profitable service that we're able or should be offering to our customers. And there's a whole business case behind that in terms of scalability and repetition and efficiency, but that's a whole other video for another conversation. But that is where within a sentence where you're covering those three topics, you can properly define who you are, what you do, and who you do it for. And I feel like that's something that you should be going now. The video is going to be over in a second, and you'll be able to actually get and start editing that. And if you have a hard time narrowing it down because of a character count, that's totally okay. If you need to leave something out, leave out the things that aren't your best, that aren't your top, that aren't the thing you want to be selling. Just talk about that, because I'm sure you would be happier if you could replicate your best client, not your least profitable or highest managed client. I think that's where you can also shoot for those shortened and very concise topics where it's focused a lot on who exactly you want, which is probably replicating your best and most ideal client that's out there. So I will leave it there. I will cut the video so that you can go and update all of those places. And the long format version we'll have in the next video. It'll be recommended to you and linked below, but it is just an expanded version of this for your homepage and anywhere that you can have a long description. So we'll get to that in the next one.